Charles Mingus. Charles Mingus Jr. was an American jazz upright bassist, pianist, composer, bandleader, and author. A major proponent of collective improvisation, he is considered to be one of the greatest jazz musicians and composers in history, with a career spanning 3 decades and collaborations with other jazz musicians such as Louis Armstrong, Duke Ellington, Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, and Herbie Hancock. Mingus compositions continue to be played by contemporary musicians ranging from the repertory bands Mingus Big Band, Mingus Dynasty, and Mingus Orchestra, to the high school students who play the charts and compete in the Charles Mingus High School competition. In 1993, the Library of Congress acquired Mingus collected papers, including scores, sound recordings, correspondence and photos, in what they described as the most important acquisition of a manuscript collection relating to jazz in the library's history. Charles Mingus was born in Nogales, Arizona. His father, Charles Mingus Sr., was a sergeant in the U.S. Army. Mingus Jr. was largely raised in the Watts area of Los Angeles. His maternal grandfather was a Chinese-British subject from Hong Kong, and his maternal grandmother was an African-American from the southern United States. Mingus was the great-great-great-grandson of the family's founding patriarch who was, by most accounts, a German immigrant. His ancestry included German-American, African-American, and Native American. In Mingus' autobiography Beneath the Underdog, his mother was described as the daughter of an English/Chinese man and a South American woman, and his father was the son of a black farm worker and a Swedish woman. Charles Mingus Sr. claims to have been raised by his mother and her husband as a white person until he was 14, when his mother revealed to her family that the child's true father was a black slave, after which he had to run away from his family and live on his own. The autobiography does not confirm whether Charles Mingus Sr. or Mingus himself believed this story was true, or whether it was merely an embellished version of the Mingus family's lineage. His mother allowed only church-related music in their home, but Mingus developed an early love for other music, especially Duke Ellington. He studied trombone, and later cello, although he was unable to follow the cello professionally because, at the time, it was nearly impossible for a black musician to make a career of classical music, and the cello was not yet accepted as a jazz instrument. Despite this, Mingus was still attached to the cello, as he studied bass with Red Callender in the late 1930s. Callender even commented that the cello was still Mingus' main instrument. In Beneath the Underdog, Mingus states that he did not actually start learning bass until Buddy Collette accepted him into his swing band under the stipulation that he be the band's bass player. Due to a poor education, the young Mingus could not read musical notation quickly enough to join the local youth orchestra. This had a serious impact on his early musical experiences, leaving him feeling ostracized from the classical music world. These early experiences, in addition to his lifelong confrontations with racism, were reflected in his music, which often focused on themes of racism, discrimination and injustice. Much of the cello technique he learned was applicable to double bass when he took up the instrument in high school. He studied for 5 years with Herman Rienshagen, principal bassist of the New York Philharmonic, and compositional techniques with Lloyd Rees. Throughout much of his career, he played a bass made in 1927 by the German maker Ernst Heinrich Roth.